Today in the battle of the high-end department stores, who makes the better breakfast? Is it Harvey Nichols or is it Selfridges? Well, today I'm going to find out because I'm going to be trying both breakfasts to see who's best. So let's start off first with Harvey Nichols. So the Harvey Nichols I decided to go to is located in Leeds city centre. The front of this store is basically like a giant floor-to-ceiling glass window, but in this case a floor to top of building glass window. So a really impressive looking storefront. Let's head in and check it out. This store is set across 5 floors: ground, 1, 2, 3 and 4. But the floor we want to go to is the 4th floor, where the restaurant is. So let's head up. And we're here. So as it says, the restaurant should be located just behind me, right here. The main counter is situated just to the side in an open kitchen type design, where you can see a couple of the chefs preparing the food, but I think there is a bigger kitchen behind as well. The inside of this restaurant is, well, pretty fancy. You have big chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, a modern and chic look to the place, and a gold colour scheme running through the whole restaurant if you're in any doubt about how luxurious this place is. So the breakfast menu is a bit smaller than I was expecting, with just a few dishes available, but I think they have all the main ones, including the English breakfast, which is the one I'm going for, plus the usual cup of tea. And I really do think it makes the experience more upmarket if you get a teapot rather than just a cup of tea, because it adds to the experience. So if you want to up your fanciness, add a teapot. So the breakfast came out looking, how many times I'm going to say this word, fancy. But it did have all the usual breakfast items though, including black pudding, which is not always the case. So with this breakfast you get 2 rashers of bacon that look like they're cooked perfectly for me with a nice amount of golden brown charring. You get a giant sausage also cooked nicely with a good amount of charring on it. A couple of mushrooms that are hiding under the sausage. 2 slices of black pudding that are a little smaller than I'm used to, but I suppose they do combine to make a big one like you usually get at most of the places. You get a slice of sourdough toast with a pack of Yorkshire butter that I'm looking forward to trying, so that should be good. A roasted tomato with nice charring on it. Some baked beans in its own little mini saucepan. And a great looking fried egg with what looks like a nice runny yolk with some seasoning on top. Let's dig in. I'm going to start off here with the sausage, and let me tell you, this is one of the heaviest sausages I've ever picked up with a fork. Probably the weight of 2 sausages anywhere else, and I'm guessing a high meat content too. So let's just taste it. This was delicious. The outside had a bit of a snap to it, the inside was definitely meaty in texture, and it had a great meaty salty flavour too, so a great sausage. I'm going to move on to the egg next, as the yolk is just asking to be broken into, and it is perfect. I could watch egg yolk run out of an egg all day, but let's move on next to the bacon. It's a nice thick cut piece here with grill marks running through it, so I'm guessing oven, then grill or frying, but it looks tasty nevertheless, so let's try it out. The bacon is delicious. You get a slight crisp to it, it's meaty and salty and had a flame grill taste. Let's move on to the mushrooms. So these were hiding under the sausage, so hopefully some nice meaty goodness has infused into it. Let's give it a taste. This was a great mushroom. It was soft and meaty in texture and had a strong mushroom flavour too. I'm going to move on to the beans next, and I wonder what they use. Are they going to be Heinz, or maybe a different brand, or maybe they make their own? Let's give it a taste and see. They were okay. The thickness of the sauce and texture of the beans was good, but it maybe slightly lacked in flavour. I think it could have done with being a bit more tomatoey and a bit sweeter. Next up, the black pudding. You get 2 smaller pieces here rather than one big piece that you normally get at most of the places, but it looks good. I like the colour of it, so let's just go in for a taste. I really like this black pudding, probably one of the best black puddings I've ever had. It was soft and crumbly on the inside, had a nice chew, and a nice meaty nutty flavour. Now this tomato has actually been cooked, which I would say is a little unusual, as the places I've been to recently have not really cooked their tomatoes enough for me, but this one has. Let's see how it tastes. It's soft, it's juicy, it's sweet, and has a great tomato flavour, so a good tomato. Next up, I want to try this Yorkshire butter with the sourdough toast. It looks like a good one to me, so let's get it open, spread it on the toast and have a bite. Very nice. It had a creamy buttery flavour, the toast was crunchy, and they went well together. On to the combo bite. I've gone here with the tasty bacon, delicious black pudding, soft runny yolk, and juicy tomato. Plus the good old dip into the beans. What a tasty bite of food. I don't think this was the biggest breakfast I've ever had, but I think you're paying for quality over quantity here, and I think it showed. So that was a nice breakfast in there. I particularly like the bacon and black pudding. They were great. So the total cost of that meal was £17.25. Let's move on next to Selfridges. So the Selfridges I decided to go to is the one located in Manchester city centre. Now if you thought the Harvey Nichols building was impressive with the floor to top of building glass windows, this is on another level. The whole front of the building is glass with a massive sign and great big automatic doors. Let's head in. Straight in from the entrance you have a giant waving robot to welcome you in, which is a nice touch. And I think it's supposed to be made out of old computer parts, which is maybe a nod to recycling. So according to the store guide, this store has 5 floors with various things on each floor, but we're not interested in that today. We're interested in the cafe, which is on the lower ground floor, just there. So let's head down. I think this might actually be the first time I'm heading down for a cafe. And here it is, the San Carlo Grand Cafe. I think there might be an Italian theme here, but let's go in for a closer look. So you have the main counter looking very fancy indeed, with delicious looking pastries on display and even expensive wines and champagnes just behind. The cafe is pretty small and narrow, with a modern and stylish theme, but it does have an open, airy feel as there's basically no ceiling. It just goes all the way up to the top of the building. The menu is pretty large with a variety of options to choose from, including breakfast, desserts, sandwiches and ice cream to name a few. But we're going for the San Carlo Grande, which is the big breakfast, plus the usual pot of tea, and this one comes with a small biscuit on the side. I think pouring the tea I realised I don't think I've let the tea brew enough, so it's a pretty weak looking tea, but when I did let it brew, it was pretty good. So this was a huge looking breakfast when it came out. I don't think I've had a plate this big before, and it was filled with items all looking delicious. So with this breakfast you get 2 rashers of bacon that are thick cut and have some nice frying colour on them, some fried mushrooms that are the smaller kind chopped up rather than the one giant mushroom that's quite common. You get 2 fried eggs that I have to say look amazing with runny yolks, and I don't think I even need to test them out to know that. You get some fried potatoes, which is a little unusual as normally it's hash browns or potato rosties. You get a roasted tomato cut in half with I think some oregano on top. 2 strange looking sausages. I mean, have you ever seen sausages that look like that before? I don't think I have. So it's going to be quite interesting to try these out. I wonder what they're going to taste like. You get a pot of beans in the middle which looks pretty saucy. and a couple of slices of sourdough toast with a pack of butter on the side. I'm going to start off here with one of these unusual looking sausages. It kind of looks like it's a sausage that's had its ends chopped off and its outer casing removed. And dare I say, it looks like maybe a spam sausage. But let's go in for a taste and see how it is. It's actually a lot better than I first thought. It tastes pretty good. You can see the texture is like a normal sausage and the taste is just like a normal sausage too. So nice and meaty and salty, and I'm surprised to say, a good sausage. Let's move on to the eggs, and no surprise, they're cooked perfectly with nice runny yolks, and I just love watching egg yolk ooze out onto the plate. And it was very tasty. So unusual item number 2 here is these fried potatoes. I've never had these on a breakfast before, but they do look to be cooked nicely and I like fried potatoes. So here it goes. These were great. The inside was soft and fluffy, the outside was slightly crisp with a nice herby flavour. This might be a bit controversial, but I think I prefer these smaller mushrooms rather than the one big one, as I think you get more flavour spread across multiple mushrooms here. And I think I'm right. You get a creamy buttery flavour, I'm guessing from the butter they're fried in, and a strong mushroom flavour too. Now for the bacon. It's thick cut here and has good golden brown charring on it. Plus look at that fat glistening in the light. Let's go in for a taste of this. Delicious. You get a meaty, salty chew and bite, the fat just melts away, and you get a slight crisp from the frying as well. This is delicious bacon. The beans are another unusual item here, as it said on the menu, cannellini beans rather than usual baked beans. They look like a bigger bean than baked beans too, and the sauce is a little different. Let's see what they taste like. It's not bad. Straight away you get the flavour of the sauce, which is exactly like a pasta sauce. So it's a bit like beans in a bolognese sauce, if you can imagine that. Next up, the tomato. I normally like it cooked a bit more than this, so that's my only criticism, but let's go in for a bite. It's decent. Tastes exactly like a herby tomato. Let's move on to the sourdough toast. It looks pretty crunchy like most sourdoughs, and you get your own butter. So the first thing we need to do is get the butter on the toast, and then take a bite. I think you can always tell the difference when you have butter rather than margarine, and this one was no exception. It's really creamy and delicious. Now for the combo bite. I've gone here with the unusual sausage, the fried potatoes, mushrooms, and fried egg, plus a dip into the pasta sauce bean juice. It all kind of worked pretty well together. I think this was a bit of an Italian themed breakfast, but I liked it, even though some of the items were a bit unusual. So that was a really delicious breakfast in there. I was particularly surprised by the strange sausages. So the total cost of that meal was £13.90. So which was the better breakfast? Comment down below which one you preferred. I think for me it has to be Selfridges. They were both delicious, but Selfridges was slightly better value as you got more items for a slightly less price. Okay, if you like breakfast, click on the thumbs up icon below and click on subscribe to come along for the next food journey, and I'll see you in the next one.